rules of the Qur'an to correct that
Right.
overnight.
No, not overnight. What the rule is, go back to the book.
Yeah.
Go to the book. And the trouble with most people, nobody really goes to the book.
The thing I would like to ask you is, in this wonderful, and we're having fun here too,
Yes,
part of
yes,
it, you know,
yes.
but in this wonderful Islamic center, you are gentlemen, as I see everybody here that I look at
Yes.
is a male so far.
Yes.
Now, suppose you went home tonight, every one of these distinguished gentlemen,
Yes.
and all of your daughters chose this day to tell you that they had decided to marry the Jewish boy down the street
Right.
or the Christian
Right.
boy that was walking around. Suppose that, any of these things, I don't have to elaborate further. Young people, often they start all these things, and then how do you speak to them when you say, look, the Jew is my brother, the Christian is my brother, but we don't get married? And then you come back to white doesn't want to marry black, and then everybody passes laws. So, first of all, Afghanistan, and they're all fighting each other, and secondly, intermarriage, or what they decided. What if your son came home and said, I have been a good Muslim for 30 years, but suddenly I have decided to become a Christian? I mean, so what do you say?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, your second question about marriage. Islam tells us, see, in detail now, whom we can and whom we can't. We follow this biblical injection to the letter, where the Bible says that an idolater or an idolatress thou shalt not marry. Now we uphold that. An idolater and an idolatress thou shalt not marry. So my son falls in love with a Hindu girl. My religion says, no, you can't marry her. No matter how beautiful she is, no matter how much she allures one, is that you can't marry. Now racially, with the Hindus, most of the Hindus, we are one language group. We have the same racial stock. We carry the same surnames. We enjoy the same dishes. But because of our religious concept, idea of God, my religion says, no, you can't marry an idolater or an idolatress. I can, my religion allows me to marry a Christian woman or a Jewess.
It does allow you to marry?
It does allow, yes. It does
I
allow.
didn't know that.
The reason. There's a reasoning behind it. He said, look, we are so close. If I marry a Jewess, for example, I would be the last man to say anything abusive about any of the Jewish heroes. Moses, David, Solomon, Jesus. We have the highest respect for them. So this wife of mine is Jewess. She will be still at home with me. In other words, I respect Moses, I respect David, Solomon, all the prophets. What I'm going to tell her with her and reason with her is, so come dear, now come a step forward. You have been at a certain level of religious education. Come 2 steps forward. One is to accept Jesus and then accept Muhammad as well. So I'm asking her to come to a higher level of understanding religion. To the Christian woman, in this country, when I said that at first, that look, we are allowed to marry Christian women. So the white men in the audiences, when I delivered talks, they were thinking, say, yeah, I know why. So I said, why? He said, just because we are whites. You think now marrying a white woman is a superior thing to do. I said, no. Even if the Christian woman is an African woman, she is a Hottentot, she is a Bushman, she is Christian, I can marry her. Because again, we are so close. We accept Jesus as one of the mightiest messengers of God. We accept him as the Messiah. We accept his miraculous birth. We accept his many miracles. The only point of real difference between me and my spouse, that Christian lady, would be that I would say, look, he is not God. He is not the begotten Son of God. But everything else, we have a common denominator. We have one with the Jew. We have a common denominator with the Christian. So we said, we can get them, and more easily they can be absorbed in the house of Islam. Because whatever you believe, we believe, plus a step further. But now my daughter can't marry a Hindu man, nor can she marry a Jew, nor can she marry a Christian. Now the Hindu is understood being an idol worshipper. But now you say, what about the Jew and the Christian? I can marry a Jewess and I can marry a Christian woman. Why can't my daughter marry a Jew or a Christian?
Yeah.
Now the reason is that you see the Christian husband of my daughter, He's got no respect for Muhammad. He's going to use an offensive language. He's going to say Muhammad is an imposter.
Why?
Because that's
Not
his training.
necessarily.
No, that's his training. Because as soon as you say that you accept Muhammad as a prophet, you are a Muslim. You see, when you say, I say, look, Muhammad, you will say, look, Muhammad was a great man. Everybody says so. He was a mighty man. You know, he created a nation and an empire and a religion. He is supposed to have left behind a book, like the Qur'an. So I said, look, I take off my hat to the man. He's the great. And so many people say he was one of the greatest men that ever lived. Michael H. Hart, in his top 100, he puts Muhammad number 1.
Yes.
Jules Masserman, you know, in his book on the Turks, the history of the Turks.
Top 100 men.
Right, in the top 100. Then Jules Masserman, in the history, who are history's great leaders. And Lamartine, in his history of the Turks. He says if greatness of purpose, smallness of means, and outstanding results are the 3 criteria of human greatness, who could dare to compare any great man in modern history with Muhammad? He's daring people, bring your candidates. So in other words now, from that point of view, the Christian, the Westerner, will be prepared to concede that Muhammad was a great man. But he was an imposter. In other words, he was a false prophet. So that's the biggest barrier now. Because if you accept that he was also a prophet means that God chose him. If God chose Muhammad, now Muhammad tells you that the flesh of the swine thou shalt not eat. Now you can say, look, I like pork chops. You know, all my life I've been enjoying it. He said, look, this man is a prophet of God and is authorized by God to tell you now, don't eat the pig, don't drink alcohol, no promiscuousness, don't dance or court or date women. So at every step now, if you believe in this man, that he is a prophet of God, you have to listen to him. It's not just a word saying, I believe he's a prophet. It means nothing. When you say he is a prophet of God, what does it imply? It means that he is chosen by God. Now, if he's chosen by God to guide you, to tell you now, according to your capacity now, that you are not to touch alcohol, you are not to take interest, you are not, whatever he tells you, it becomes binding on you, which you are not prepared to accept. Who? The Jew or the Christian.
Mr. Deedat, I have to... last time I was really afraid to bring these things up because you seem to me a very holy man and I respect you for that. But, sir, there are just too many things... I mean, everybody is so human, and you must know that there are people of great Islamic tradition, particularly we see them in Geneva, it just happens to be a place where many come, who do not observe one single one hardly of the things you said, and they're pretty famous Islamic people, and then they go back home and they put on the raiment or they respect the things only at a certain period in time. Now, I'm not saying that you have a monopoly on the hypocrites, because Christianity is absolutely full of them, and I suppose every other religion is too. But, you know, what God says and does and what prophets say and do is so far from the least of these thy brethren that sometimes it really seems hopeless, including for the Muslims, if you excuse me for saying so.
No, I would say, look, no community in his right mind can claim to be perfect. We all have our black sheep. Whether you are a Jew or a Christian, yes, Hindu or Muslim, we all have our shortcomings. But this American, he wrote a book, The Messenger. In that book he says that there are more professing Christians in the world than professing Muslims.
Professing. Mm-hmm.
But, he continues, but there are more practicing Muslims in the world than practicing Christians. And if you had come here this morning, say before 12, around 1 o'clock I could have taken you to the mosque. And of course today, and it would have been out, because today was Friday, and on Fridays there's no place even for us in the mosque. This mosque next door to us here, it holds 4,000 people on Fridays. But any ordinary day, any weekday, if you come there, you find that there are more than 1,000 people in the middle of the day. More than 1,000 people in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, mm-hmm, which you will not find in the Catholic cathedral on Sunday. So what is it?